want to be a missionary, to go out and give the life of Christ to the people in the missionary countries.
She wanted to love until it hurts. Those were her words. Mother Teresa, welcome to tonight's Life on Film, a presentation of the National March for Life. My name is Kevin Dunn, and tonight's feature, Mother Teresa, No Greater Love, produced by the Knights of Columbus. And it's quite the film. But before we get there, I've been given the opportunity to give you a quick update on Roe Canada, the True North in a post-Roe world. Many of you have heard of it. Many of you have called our offices for screenings or signed up online, and we're very much appreciative of that. We've had screenings already in Ontario, in BC, in Manitoba, and I think there's about 30 other screenings. We're just trying to keep up with the requests, so we appreciate your patience in that regard. If you would like to screen it, please do visit us at roecanadafilm.com and check out the trailer there. Maybe one day we will see a Roe-like decision, a Dobbs-like decision here in our country. She was a woman of hope, and that is really why we chose this film, why we asked the producers if we could run this film. She was a person of hope, Mother Teresa, so outspoken on issues of life and the dignity of the human person. And even in front of world leaders when she received the Nobel Peace Prize, which you'll see in the film tonight. And a couple of other people of hope we're happy to have with us tonight. And God bless you for joining us. Father Brian, I'm gonna make sure I get this right, Kolodiejchuk, did I? Good. Excellent. Father Brian Kolodiejchuk, who's the postulator who was the postulator for Mother Teresa's canonization. And man, it's just we're just honored to have you. How are you, Father Brian?
Good. Yeah. Hello. Very good to be with you in my home country.
Yes, your home country. But we're talking tonight from
Washington, D.C.
Very good.
The Mother Teresa Institute, right next to the Catholic University of America. It's kind of that. The postulation changed into the Mother Teresa Center, and the Institute is a program of the center. People who want to do research on Mother, and we encourage such study. We have annual events in September around her feast day. So get scholars interested in going into greater depth.
The legacy lives on. The legacy lives on. Oh man, well, it's just wonderful to have you with us. I'm totally honored. I've been watching so many videos of you, just interviews, and of course in the film, just such a beautiful job. But we'll chat about that. I'd like to also introduce to you the man behind the film, David Naglieri. David is the director and the writer of this film with Knights of Columbus. He has his own production company, Emmy Award-winning director, producer. I just, again, honored to have you with us tonight. David, how you doing?
Thank you. Very well. Thank you, Kevin. Great to be with you. It's a real honor to continue to speak about this film and to be with you. So thank you.
Yeah, and where are we speaking to you from tonight? Connecticut or?
So I'm in my home in Wallingford, Connecticut. I also have Canadian ties. My wife's from Oakville, Ontario, and I lived for 5 years in Toronto as a producer with Salt and Light Television. So I consider myself an adopted Canadian as well.
The True North, strong and free. We're still fighting but to keep it strong and free. But and Father, you have ties to Canada as well.
Yes, I was born and raised in Winnipeg in the Ukrainian Catholic Church. I was ordained in the Byzantine Rite, Ukrainian Rite, in Newark way back in 1985. And the Metropolitan Maxim Hermaniuk came from Winnipeg, because in those days we had to be incarnated somewhere.
Yes.
So yes. I was incarnated in my home, as we say, archeparchy or archdiocese.
All right, well, we got two Canadian boys joining us for this Canadian screening of this beautiful film. Gentlemen, is there anything that we should know, maybe going into the film? Hopefully, everybody, you'll stick around after the film tonight, both of you watching at home and both of you joining me here. Will you be able to stay for a little bit after the film to have a discussion?
Certainly.
Wonderful. Well, we'll start with you, Father. What should we know going into this film? When did this film happen in the course of Mother's life? It happened after,
So we had the Mother Teresa Center had like 3 different projects, like Hollywood style or Hollywood movies proposed, and the third one we didn't get beyond the screenplay. And so when we're talking every year, we have our annual board meeting in Calcutta, and the then Superior General of the Sisters, Sister Prema, said, well, I think maybe a documentary would even be better. And so we approached Knights of Columbus, and the Knights were very generous in doing the film, and David is, as you know, excellent work. Oh, yeah. And so that's how we did it together with the Knights. The Center got involved in setting it up, and where and where to go, whom to interview, and those things. But they did all the work.
Well, that's amazing, because I watched the film again this week just to refresh my mind. It's such a beautiful, I call it a work of art. David, congratulations. Anything that we should know before going into the film?
Well, my one recommendation in watching this film is something I struggle with, and I think it's very common today because of technology, is oftentimes, when I grew up, you drove out to the video store, you rented a video, and that was your only option. And now, because of all the platforms and YouTube and your phone, we all have billions of options in front of us, and it's very easy to get distracted. I would treat this hour and 50-minute film a little bit like a retreat. Put away your phone, put away your devices, and get absorbed into the story, because this film travels through the life of Mother Teresa, and then it travels throughout the world as we see the missionaries of charity today. And it very much can feel like a spiritual retreat, and you could really grow spiritually from the witnesses and from the stories that emerge. And so that's my best recommendation as you get ready to watch the film.
Well spoken, gentlemen. Stay with us, and all of you stay with us after the film, and we'll have a chat with Father Brian and David. But for now, enjoy Life on Film as we present Mother Teresa, No Greater Love. Well, we certainly hope you enjoyed tonight's presentation, Life on Film, Mother Teresa, No Greater Love, produced by the Knights of Columbus in association with Mother Teresa Center. And wow, so moving. As you know from before, we have 2 very special guests with us tonight. Father Brian Kolodiejchuk of the Missionaries of Charity, postulator for the cause of canonization of Mother Teresa, and David Naglieri, who's the writer and director of the film. Honored to have you both with us. Thanks for sticking around. Gentlemen, I guess I'll start with you, Father Brian. I heard a wonderful story, I think it was on your interview on EWTN, about a special cross that you received one of the first times you met Mother Teresa. Can you share that story with us?
Yes. Well, my sister joined the sisters before I did, and she was in Rome about to enter novitiate. And so my parents and I traveled from Winnipeg, and we went to see her first time. We're seeing her as a sister. And Mother Teresa was there, and she was beginning the first group of the Contemplative Brothers. And so she knew I was the brother of one of her sisters, because I was doing the first reading in the Mass, and we were there daily for Mass and adoration. So we had the opening Mass, and during that Mass, Mother Teresa pinned a cross on one priest and 5 Italian laymen, and that was the beginning of the brothers. And so after the Mass, we were going out. My parents said goodbye to Mother, and then it was my turn. And then she said, and I would like to pin a cross on you too. And there I was at 21 years old, and this is Mother Teresa talking. And so I just kind of, in shock, I really didn't say anything. And only the next morning after Mass, I had enough courage to go and ask, okay, well, what did you mean? And as I learned later with Mother Teresa, if you can do it today, we do it today. And so she just said, well, just stay and join the brothers. But I couldn't. I had to go back to Winnipeg for an operation. So I did go back in September to Rome. This was June. In 1977. And the following year, April 9th, 1978, I have a picture of Mother Teresa actually pinning the cross. And so that little encounter, of course, changed my whole life, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here either. So
Wow, what a and you know, you look at that flow chart at the end of the film and you see the legacy of Mother Teresa with the brothers and the sisters, and it just seems to be so expansive. David, man, like fantastic job. Obviously, understatement. Congratulations on a great film. You know, in an interview I watched, you said you recalled Mother Teresa famously saying, if there are poor on the moon, we will go there. And then you said, we wanted to demonstrate that in a concrete way by going all over the world to the most remote regions by making this film, 4 continents. How long did it take you to make the film, and can you reflect on the production process?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And I don't want to sit here and take all the credit. A lot of talented people worked with me. My co-producer, Tim Moriarty, his whole team, Castletown Media, and my editor, Mark Bourdignon, who's in Canada, lives in Oshawa, and he spent about 9 months, overseeing the post-production. So I was blessed to have a talented team around me that helped make this film a success. And of course, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, because when the film came out, it was extremely successful with its theatrical release. What drove people to the theaters and what inspired them to word of mouth tell people to come watch it was Mother Teresa, and not me and not anybody related to the team. But I want to thank you for the kind words. But the production process, I said when it was finished, was really, I felt, the work of the Holy Spirit, because, and Kevin, as a filmmaker, these films take time to complete, especially something feature length. And as expansive as something like a biopic on Mother Teresa. So what we needed to do is we needed to expedite the project, because we got the film greenlit in September of 21, and we wanted to have it ready for September of 22, which was the 25th anniversary for death. So we had 12 months from the idea conceived to completion. And that was going to be challenging based on how many places we want to film. So we wound up filming in 10 different countries. We filmed about 150 interviews. Many did not, make the final cut, but of course they were a gift to the Missionaries of Charity to kind of tell the full story of Mother Teresa's life, and in the future there could be other productions. And in order to do that, we had to use multiple crews traveling sometimes simultaneously. So we might be filming in the Philippines and Albania at the same time, or in Brazil or in Mexico at the same time. And really so much credit goes to Father Brian and Sister Rosanna, who works closely with him at the Mother Teresa Center. We had a lot of meetings in the beginning. How are we going to tell this story? And I remember they said that quote by Mother Teresa, and they used it in reference specifically, I think, to going to the Amazon region of Brazil, because one of the places we went to is regions of Brazil that nobody goes to. These are remote tribes, indigenous tribes that have no contact with the outside world. And some people have shared, I think one of my favorite images from the film is a drone that captures these sisters that go in boats to these indigenous tribes and bring them the Eucharist and bring them the sacraments and evangelize. And that's kind of captured. We wanted to capture that in the film, and traveling to 10 different countries, even the Amazon, was a way to bring bring who she was to life and her mission to life.
Yeah, and she truly did affect the world. I mean, we know, everybody knows Mother Teresa, but you watch that film and you go, man. Chicago, serving meals to the gangs, it's like you don't think about these things. You think about her in Calcutta and doing the amazing, which would have been well and beautiful and good just on its own. But you see this expansive love that is shown throughout the world. Here in Canada, Father Brian, of course, she visited here and she spoke about, I think it was in the 80s. I don't have the exact year, but I have footage of her speaking at a national March for Life. And yeah, she spoke on the atrocities of abortion. Many times in front of world leaders. When she received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1979, she said those nations who have legalized abortion are the poorest countries. And I wondered if you could reflect on that. We have a lot of viewers across, a lot of ardent pro-life, pro-family Canadians watching tonight. Can you reflect on that part of her mission, that pro-life part of her mission for us?
Yes, no, that was, especially in the context of India and Calcutta, they had what they call Shishu Bhavan, which is the children's home. And they had even not anymore, but they used to have around 300 children. And that was only one place. And then people would adopt the children from there, and she would say, "We fight abortion by adoption." And so, sometimes I would say, a strong pro-life person as mother was, if if I was the woman who had an abortion, she'd be one of the first ones I go to, because I wouldn't expect, condemnation.
Sure.
Obviously, that's the wrong thing, but it's the love and compassion for someone who was in that difficult situation. Absolutely. And many of the homes with the sisters are for homes for unwed mothers, and so they come there, they have their child, and they stay longer, get settled, and in other places where they can give up the child for adoption, and sisters do that work too. So yes, mother was a very strong pro-life person, both by speaking, also by action, by as she said, fight abortion by adoption, and then also the taking care of people, the women who were in difficult situations. Not I would say, maybe you say she walked the talk, if you want to say it that way.
It's so true, and that's our call too, right? We never judge the heart, and that was the beautiful thing about Mother. She never judged the heart. She might know of the evil, but she never judged the heart, and you saw that the way she just embraced the mothers in these difficult situations, and that's our call too. She saw, as it said in the film, she saw the face of Christ in the vulnerable, and you saw this so many times with the mother and baby. David, Mother never, I feel like I know her now. Can I call her Mother? Saint
Mother.
Saint Teresa of Calcutta. She never liked the spotlight, and yet she was kind of pushed there. And you as a filmmaker, I know myself as a filmmaker, we're always trying to push people into the spotlight to hear their stories. And I know in the film, you alluded to the Malcolm Muggeridge story. I forget the interview who spoke about how Malcolm Muggeridge wanted to interview her, the great Malcolm Muggeridge wanted to interview her, and she immediately said no. And then she was advised, please do this. And that really started her fame that she never wanted. And here you are, a filmmaker in 2023, 2024, putting this film out. You must feel like, I know I would just feel so blessed and so honored. Can you reflect on that side of Mother that just wanted to do her thing without the cameras, without the spotlight, yet she had to balance the two? I wondered if you could reflect on that as a filmmaker and as a Catholic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it was a central element of her life, that dynamic. And I think it also came through in the film in other ways too, because as I mentioned, we traveled to 10 different countries and all over the world, did about 150 interviews, majority of them with missionaries of charity. And for many of them, this was a tremendous suffering for them. So here they are going into these dark holes in the world, working in ghettos, working in very unsafe places, doing unsavory acts out of the love for Christ. But for them, the hardest thing would be to come into a room with beautiful lighting and we can provide refreshments for them and to sit down and talk, because that's not what they want to do. And that also is what makes this film so rare, because the Missionaries of Charity don't invite photographers and videographers and documentarians to see what they do. They do it just for Christ. But so it was a real privilege and honor for the Knights to be able to capture everything that's in this film, because this is not like anybody could go make this kind of documentary. So yeah, throughout the process, there was for me this sense of awe and sense of appreciation, 100%. And then in terms of Mother Teresa's own life, and I forget the little quote, but Father Brian can correct me, but I think she would often say, for every photograph taken of me, a soul gets released in purgatory, right? Something like
that's
that.
Right. That's how difficult it was for her. Such a sacrifice. As she said, one photo even means one soul out of purgatory.
Yeah. So it was a big part of her ministry, and I think this recognition that she's doing it for Christ. There's a bigger plan at work, and it's one thing I did not know that I learned through this process, which I found very intriguing. The fact that she said no multiple times to Malcolm Muggeridge, and then he goes to a cardinal archbishop in England who asserts pressure through the Vatican, says no, please do this, and I think for me as a documentary filmmaker, looking back to see, okay, one of the most famous individuals in the history of humanity, certainly in the 20th century, is launched to fame through a documentary, Something Beautiful for God. There was also the book that Muggeridge wrote, but it was largely the film that launched her to fame. And so, I hope that our film can reignite an interest in her, and not for any glory for me or for Father Brian or anybody involved, But I really feel as though Mother Teresa's message is so important to our world today. And it goes back a little bit to your last question, Kevin, because I think what Mother Teresa was able to balance is love and mercy and truth and justice. So she gets up there in Oslo and she speaks very strongly about abortion. But then, as Father Brian was very eloquently saying, when she meets with a woman, there's no condemnation. There's that complete love of Christ that comes through. And I think that's the balance that we can maybe never achieve quite what Mother Teresa was able to, but that's something perfect for us to strive to in the world today. To be strong, to be courageous, to stand up for truth, but then to also try to equal it with love and mercy and openness. And so I think Mother Teresa is a saint for today.
And to that, Father Brian, she was fast tracked relative. I mean, maybe she was the first that I recall, but it seemed John Paul II saw the heroic virtue of this woman, and in his wisdom, fast tracked her. You were the postulator for her cause for sainthood. Can you reflect on that when you were asked? And maybe one particular moment of that journey that sticks out the most in your mind with the work you did to bring her to the world. And again, I know you take you're very humble in that regard, because you say she was a saint already. But can you reflect on that journey and maybe one moment?
Yeah. The mother, actually, in the whole process, Mother only had two exceptions. And the first one was not having to wait for 5 years to begin the cause. So normally it was 5, but her reputation of holiness and intercessory power, which is the two things the Church looks for, was so solid and widespread. So John Paul said, well, there's no purpose in waiting. That's not going to change or lessen. On the contrary. And so she was the first one. Interesting, he was the second. He was the second exception. And the third one, it was Sister Lucia of Fatima. But and then the other exception was that they did things properly. So first was the declaration of heroic virtue, and only after that they considered the miracle. But it should have been in two separate moments of the decree. And they, as they did for John 23rd, they did it in one ceremony, but the actual process itself was done in the proper order. But that was the only exceptions. The rest of the process we did thoroughly like everyone else.
I'll follow that up, Father Brian. And again, maybe you can't talk about this, but there must be more favors always coming in, miracles, or at least claimed miracles.
Yeah, no, I think, certainly after she died and during this time of the process, we had many reports of favors, even things that could be miracles. And if the miracle that you saw for Marsilio in the movie, if that didn't work, we had another one. So all lined up, but that would work, so to say, was accepted. And so, yeah, we only get a little tiny fraction of the favors that are granted because, I'm sure people, 24/7, 7 days a week, everywhere, people asking for favors, intercession. So I'm sure she's very busy in heaven. As she said, her mission, if she's going to be a saint, she'll be one of darkness and lighting the light. So I'm sure she's doing a lot of lighting the light constantly.
I don't know about you and who you're watching at home, but at the end of the film, I just felt lifted. I just felt lifted. And one of those people in the film that really captured my heart that I didn't know until I watched the film was Jim Wahlberg. David, can you speak to him now? He was involved in the film as well. Obviously, he was a big promoter, but I just want to reflect on one note. He talked about his time being incarcerated. We were children of God, that Jesus died for us. This was a message he received from Mother Teresa, that we were more than the crimes we committed. And we were given the gift of Jesus revealing himself to my way by Mother Teresa. And I thought, wow, what a message for all of us. We're more than our past mistakes. We're more than the past abortions. We're more than those unplanned pregnancies, for those who have struggled through that, who are watching. David, can you speak to that relationship with how did you get to know Jim? and his part in the film. What a beautiful part.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people I talk to, when they talk about what part of the film draws them the most or made the biggest impact, it's Jim's testimony. So we're really grateful. And I didn't have a personal relationship with Jim until this movie came about. And really, the Missionaries of Charity guided me through who to interview, who had the strongest experience with Mother Teresa. And so Father Brian, Sister Rosanna, they mentioned to me Jim Wahlberg. So we reached out to him, and he was happy to do anything for the Missionaries of Charity and share his story. And it's quite powerful. Obviously, comes from one of the most famous families in America, and he's got a great ministry. He's written a very powerful autobiography, which I recommend people watch, published by our Sunday Visitor. And he does a lot of speaking at Catholic men's conferences. But I think his witness really shows the impact Mother Teresa had. Going back to what I said earlier about this gift she had of being non-judgmental, radiating the mercy of Christ that would come through if she was visiting a home for drug addicts or visiting prisons. And we wanted in this film, obviously we wanted to hear directly from Mother Teresa. So we canvassed archives and found the best quotes from her, from speeches and talks. And we wanted to show the work of the Missionaries of Charity, to show how her legacy lives on. But then another component was finding witnesses, people who encountered her and how she transformed them. And I got to say, I think Jim Wahlberg, I'm sure there's dozens, hundreds, and maybe thousands of people with similar stories whose lives were touched by her. But Jim's, I think, got this certain charisma, a certain gift of speaking, a certain just transparency that I think it occurs in people that have hit bottom. And Jim Wahlberg hit bottom. I mean, he was a drug addict. He was in prison. And he really experienced that. And people who kind of go through great spiritual transformation, they have a certain transparency of soul that is great for filmmakers because it comes through on camera. And then it can impact others' lives. And so Jim was going to be a segment in our film, but he watched the documentary and then he heard about our plans and he said, I really want to be a bigger part of this. And so he wound up coming on, becoming executive producer, and he's played a big role in getting his friends and contacts to promote the film, opening opportunities for us. Last month I was in Poland with Jim. We did premieres in Krakow and in Warsaw for different language versions. And so it's been great working with him and seeing him kind of use the film for the cause of evangelization. And he does a lot of great work as well with drug addiction, which is growing right now with the opioid crisis in the United States. And so it's great to see his ministry and how the film can help reinforce what he's doing, the great work he's doing.
It seems,
and that goes to the other thing about Mother Teresa, just the ripple effects, right? So she transformed Jim. But Jim's touching thousands of lives right now. He has 2 rehab centers specifically working with the opioid crisis. And the beautiful thing he does, and I know some of the people that he's ministering to who've gotten caught up in the opioid crisis, including people close to me, and he's able to help people and also introduce Christ. So that's the other thing to keep in mind about Mother Teresa. Every life she touched is touching more lives, And so that's the beautiful, beautiful witness of Mother Teresa as well.
Yeah. As you watch the film, you just see the corporal acts of mercy, just boom, boom, visiting prisons, it just like right across the board. And yes, that legacy living on, and we don't know the lives that we're going to touch by our love, that doing small things with great love, as she said. Father Brian, one more question for you. Be remiss. It must have been the letters, receiving or finding those letters. I think it shocked the whole world. It was dealt with so well in the film, those years of darkness and 50 years. Like, my word. Was there something that you, just maybe if you could just reflect on maybe that first time reading those letters and what we should take home with us from that journey that she had, that faith, that continuing faith.
Yeah, well, right after Mother Teresa died, I was part of a little committee with 2 other sisters searching for documents, and those were among the documents that we found. And so one of these 2 sisters, I was in Rome, and she was in Rome, so she had these documents. She told me a little bit about what's in there, and so when I first received them, I went to the chapel. I said, "This is very special, sacred material." So I just didn't want to, sit down in a chair and read it. So I went to the chapel to read them the first time because it was like really, really her inner heart. And even the sisters closest to her had no idea. And when I was, the first phase was in Calcutta. And so I would read some of those letters to the sisters of Mother House, the main house where Mother lived. And they were listening, and they were like shocked and crying, just thinking of listening to this. And this is the Mother Teresa we knew, the joyful, generous, tender, loving. And at the same time, she was going through this, and it was just like, for everyone, even the closest sisters, they was just like, so to me, that darkness, as she called it, is the single most heroic aspect of her life. And because we would think, well, to be Mother Teresa is not easy, and so she must be enjoying this wonderful union and to keep her going, the strength and enthusiasm and the joy. And then we find out the opposite. And it's that's real, real charity, real love for the Lord. Passion. I say, a woman passionately in love with Jesus, and so great love, great charity, and then great faith to go through all that. And sometimes people would say, well, was she depressed? And well, it's a legitimate question, but getting up every day, 4:40 in the morning, and being Mother Teresa from morning until late at night, and often they would even have sometimes general council meetings after night prayer because there was no other time. Or she'd be writing letters because she used to carry on the shoebox of letters, and that was the only time she could do it at late at night. So she would stay up until midnight, 1 o'clock, and still get up every morning, 4:40. And so that's a real heroic and without any felt consolation. So it's just real faith and pure love. And among the saints, there's no one else. I asked some experts, and they even among the saints, it's pretty well unique. So, like Saint Therese, she said, "I want to love Jesus as he has never been loved before." So only Jesus knows who won that holy competition. But certainly, she's among the ones who did really love Jesus in a very incredible and heroic degree.
And perhaps that's the maybe the biggest lesson that we could take away from this film, that because it's things can seem very dark, especially in this country, and I know in the U.S. as well when it comes to life issues. Well, it comes to many issues, but the very basic issue of life is just under threat from every direction, and yet we can find hope. We are people of hope, and that's what this film does. Is it lifts, it brings hope. David, where can people share this film? And can you tell us perhaps about maybe another project you're working on? Because I know I'd be looking forward to your next work.
Yeah, thank you. Sure. Yeah. So our website is motherteresamovie.com, and the film is available on most streaming platforms now, and also the DVD is available with Ignatius Press. So there's a lot of different ways that you can watch it and share it with others. And in terms of future projects, one thing we've begun working on is a new, longer documentary about the life of Blessed Michael McGivney, the founder of the Knights of Columbus. And we also have a cause for canonization going forward with him, and we're praying very hard for potential canonization in the future. So a lot of my time, I think 2024, I'm going to be spending kind of retelling the life of Blessed McGivney. We've done some smaller documentaries in the past, but we want to kind of make one longer, definitive film. And so I'm excited about exploring that, and maybe we can have another screening in the future.
Well, God bless you in your work. I'm a proud knight myself, and I'm always honored to serve as a knight. My dad, pardon me, I get a little choked up because my dad is, he's prayed for years and years to Blessed McGivney, and I have been the recipient of many blessings. I'm sure through his intercession, being able to work in this industry and still, keep shoes on the kids, as I say, doing this kind of work. So God bless the Knights of Columbus, and we will definitely keep you in our prayers. Father Brian, would you be so kind as to give a blessing to us before we wrap up the night?
Very good. Through the intercession of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, our Mother Saint Teresa of Calcutta, may the Lord bless each one of you, and that through the witness of her life, her words, her example, you might also grow in your love for Jesus, even a passionate love for him, and to see him with the eyes of faith and those around you, even in your own family, all those whom you meet and serve. And so may Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Father Brian Kolodiejchuk and David Naglieri, thank you both for joining us for this Life on Film. Mother Teresa, no greater love, and certainly no greater love than this. Wow. Thank you both. Any final words?
Thank you for the opportunity, Kevin. And thank you, Father Brian, and thank you to Mother Teresa as well. Thank you.
Good.
And
Yeah, and maybe just one last thing
Sure.
that people take away. She'd often say, do ordinary things with extraordinary love, or small things, great love. And so from that example of the mother and the sisters in the film and the others there serving, that we can, each one of us can do that in whatever vocation we're in, whatever circumstances we are in. Small things, great love, ordinary things, extraordinary love.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. It's just been a blessing. We're going to keep you in our prayers. Again, you'll see the website for this film in the description below. We hope you join us again for another Life on Film, a presentation of the National March for Life. My name is Kevin Dunn. God bless you, and good night.